I finally finished my Stranger Things Season 5 video. It got 2,000 views, let's go. As long as no giant commentary YouTuber makes a video about the exact same topic, I'm golden. Are you joking? Alright, fine, whatever. There's no way this happens again. Alas, the most unique and perfect video idea. So random. So beautiful. Drew Gooden could never have the exact same idea at the exact same time as me. I'm in the clear now. What? Just because I played the entire movie? Come on, man. Alright. I'm gonna do a video about the music industry. Whatever. Hey, everyone. Well, at least everyone who got through that god-awful intro. Thanks to those of you who watched my first two videos, it was genuinely really cool to see. In reality, I did just lose a lot of motivation for posting, and ended up getting really busy shortly after, but a couple of things have inspired me to get back into it. Case in point, today's video. Cory Barker's obsession has been absolutely everywhere. I don't even feel the need to tell you about the accolades it's getting, but I'm going to anyway. For those of you who are living under Dwayne Johnson, Obsession follows a music store employee named Bear, who, when buying a gift for his friend Nikki, discovers the One Wish Willow, and uses it to make Nikki fall in love with him, only to find dire consequences because of it. Touches on autonomy and feminism, and it ushered a lot of people back into theaters, which is where it broke a bunch of records at the box office, such as being the first movie since E.T. to earn more in its third week than its first and second. Doing all of this as a low-budget indie cast, I can hear you rolling your eyes, I know, but genuinely, this is a beyond impressive display of skill by absolutely everyone involved, and I think they deserve every bit of appreciation they're getting, and then some. I also think wholeheartedly Cory Barker has absolutely cemented himself as a generational filmmaker with this movie, but like any good art, it's caused a lot of controversy and discussion, and I just wanted to address some of that, as well as a bit of a discussion about how well they executed certain things within the film. So, spoiler alert, if you have not seen Obsession, we're going to be discussing things that are going to spoil this movie for you, so if you haven't seen it, what are you doing? Why are you watching this video? Everything from here on out will be spoiler. To start out, I want to see the main thing that I've seen about this movie, which is whether or not Bear is the villain. Now, I initially thought this was just a chronically online thing, but I've since talked to several real people who do not think that he is the villain of this movie. Hey, alright, listen to me right now. You're telling on yourself, okay? I can't even begin to explain what a ridiculous claim that is. Bear consciously and knowingly abuses a woman throughout this entire film. He overwrites her autonomy and self. And he does all of this for his own desires and wants with no regard for what she literally asks him to do. And while they do put an amount of nuance in him in the movie, they absolutely put him on the villain side of the spectrum. Even assuming that he had absolutely no idea about whether the wish was true until it's confirmed, he is still extremely self-pitying and wallowing about his friendship with Nikki from the start. The fact that he made the wish at all shows it is something that he does actually want. He wants to mold this person to better fit his life and wants and desires. From when Bear makes the wish to when he finds out the reality of what he's done, he has no intention of doing what is best for someone he allegedly considers a good friend. And everything fits within what Bear finds convenient for the relationship. And when it becomes even more abundantly clear that he is outright abusing Nikki and she wants this to stop, he doesn't care.
What's so bad about being with me?
That line was genuinely horrifying. It is only really when it starts to cause damage to Bear himself that his action shifts towards ending the wish, but he only ever attempts to change the behaviors that he doesn't like. You can see this the best from his character when he calls the customer service line, and he's asked if he wants to cancel the wish, but he says no, he just wants to alter it. I think there was actually a genius line in the script that nobody is talking about. In the scene where they attempt to get Nikki out of the car and to go into the hospital, it reads as, while they talk, Nikki gets out of the car and begins to do a little dance. The nurse ultimately refuses to take Nikki because of the principle of informed consent. Holy shit. Speaking of the script, because a sizable amount of it got changed, the original intimate scene solidifies how much of a villain Bear truly is. Instead of having Nikki with a blank face and tears streaming, which is already horrifying, originally it had Nikki turn back to normal for a few seconds, saying, quote, her expression shifting to sheer panic. She pushes him away and lets out a blood-curdling scream. Bear, what the fuck? Bear remains unfazed, his eerie demeanor chilling. Within moments, she's back. The disturbance registers as nothing more than a fleeting inconvenience to him. They also switched some of the dialogue around, like half of what the guy on the phone says was originally going to come from the shopkeeper at the end, which I think did add a good amount of tension and depth. One of the other big changes was having Nikki survive at the end of the movie, which I think works a lot better thematically. By the end of the story, Nikki has already paid her dues of the film, and having her dying would have contributed mostly shock value, so I think think that it works. Speaking of themes, I think the film borrows from similar projects in really effective ways. I think Curry Barker listed some movies he had the cast watch, like Pearl and Hereditary, but there's also some similarities to movies like Companion. But I also think Curry took many things from not only his previous short films, but honestly his comedy sketches. It is surprising to me how effectively this movie uses comedy to occasionally add a realism to the tension. But Bear as a character is extremely relevant to a lot of real issues that women are facing today, which I think is why the film is blown up so much. Bear's selfishness and Ian's toxicity are emblematic of real personality traits that many men hold, which makes them interesting characters because of the commentary they're adding to it. I think the nuance in having Bear's character being somewhat gray, despite his horrible nature and behavior, is really interesting, and it's used extremely well. Like, before he attempts to purge the pills, you do somewhat feel bad for him, like he didn't entirely know the wish was going to be true, and it is unfortunate that he has to die for it, but then he backtracks. That is such a brilliant characterization for someone who isn't evil, but is genuinely awful. And don't get me wrong, it is implied that not only his entire friend group dying, Nikki's life being ruined, and all the events really are his fault, but it's also symbolic of the relationship of care Bear has for his cat from the beginning of the movie, which didn't at all look like a stuffed animal. Bear seemingly applied the same behavior to many people in his life, so while the movie does have some pretty feminist themes and sympathize with the victim, in this case, Nikki, it does follow Bear as a protagonist and the type of guy he is the most. He neglects pretty much every character in this movie. He ignores Ian's concern, blows off Sarah, who clearly had feelings for him, left out medication for his cat to eat, and judging by the AI chatbot searches, neglected finding his grandmother proper care before her death. There's a pattern with his passiveness leading to ignoring problems, and eventually it becomes irreversible, and in the case of the cat, he literally cleans it up. This is something that Nikki calls him out on in the script, which, while feeding his cat to him is pretty awful, Bear himself did just throw her into a garbage bag. I'd actually argue the shrine was more respectful. All that to say, it is abundantly clear that he is the villain. There's no discussion. I can't even believe that some people walked away with that. But he is a very interesting character. But I think this is also the reason why the movie is so poignant. The people that disagree with that in some ways are Bear, or maybe just no one that they don't want to fully condemn. And I think it helped demonstrate the flaws with those behaviors in a way that might have been a bit too accurate. More on his character in general, his decision making is really interesting in this movie, specifically with how he treats Sarah. I find it odd that he humors Sarah's flirting after Nikki had started to become a nuisance to him. After all, the crux of his character is being obsessed with Nikki, which led to his initial wish. So I feel like it is a tiny bit contrived to have him suddenly be open to having a relationship with her. But it isn't necessarily out of character, as it is very much something a guy like this would do. But it feels slightly like it just wouldn't have happened if Nikki wasn't going to kill Sarah anyway. Michael Johnston apparently improv'd that decision to have Bear attempt to purge the pills at the end of the film before Nikki makes her wish. And I think this was perfect, as it really shows exactly who he is once again, that even when all of his friends are dead and it couldn't be more clear, he still can't do the right thing if it inconveniences him. I also really like Nikki's character. Obviously, Indy Navarrete brings out the character exceptionally, and according to Curry, she brought a tone to her character of that sort of sassiness and grounded Gen Z confident attitude that wasn't originally such a huge part of her character, but what was written with her was already also very strong to begin with, in my opinion. Making a point to have her give money to a homeless man and then holding on that shot with a needle drop lends a lot to sympathizing with her character and what's to come. I think her monologue being cut did end up helping the pacing and feel of this scene, but I do really like what it says about her character, about Bear, and about the movie. I am actually really curious what the exact phrasing of her wish would have been. I think with Bear, the wording of it was so specific, and that the movie makes an even larger point than the incel behavior with how it handles the themes of romance versus love. And I think that's a very unique theme to have, especially for a horror movie, and god damn it worked. They also had a really unique visual style. I absolutely love the color grading and lighting of many of the scenes. I do think they slightly could have used blocking and composition more to help the story, as if most, if not all, of the shots were on a tripod, and it seems like all of the interesting shots are pertaining to telling you something about Nikki. I wish there were some things to tell you a little bit more about Bear as a character visually, but I'm not complaining. The film looked amazing. They shot it on 4:3, which in my opinion did really help with the eeriness, and whether it becomes something specific to Curry Barker or just in the Obsession anthology series, I think it's something that is very underused in the way that this is, and it really lends to his style here. Also, the use of the Arri Alexa 35 and the Panavision Ultra Speed lenses really help the look of the movie, as there is a visible eeriness to every scene. It's also open aperture, so it's very strong and very creamy bokeh, which is coming from the Panavisions, but it also gives a very ethereal look that contributed to the way the movie has an intense magical feel to it with the One Wish Willow. But yeah, all that glaze being said, I do have one minor criticism, which is the dialogue, specifically in the bar scene and the last scene, which, while yes, the bar scene isn't super important, I feel like it slightly overextends, making the characters personable and likable. Maybe it's the delivery, but given how everyone crushed the performances in this movie, I don't totally think so. Like,
I look over and these two are just...
I
didn't realize we were all taking a field trip to the bar.
just comes off kind of weird tonally. And of course everyone is dogpiling on Ian's line after realizing the One Wish Willow is real, which while I personally didn't think it was that horrible, I think it does convey the awe and disbelief of that situation. I do think it would have been really funny if instead of...
Bear, open the door. I got like $1 billion, dude. It's real. Bear, what's going on? Come in.
He just went, well, Bear, I counted it. It is $1 billion. You were right. Magic is real. But ultimately, no matter what he said, it didn't end up mattering much.
Mickey!
And ultimately, as far as dialogue goes, I'm able to get over that line given the absolute insanity of what follows Ian being shot in the head.
Mickey!
I'll rip my eyes out of my fucking skull and shove the barrel in my pussy.
Jesus Christ. This was already a very tense, bordering anxiety-inducing film, but this legitimately overstimulated me in the theater, man. One detail I didn't totally figure out, but it is implied in the script, is that she vomited, quote, mostly stomach acid from lack of food. But yeah, I mean, Bear definitely isn't a piece of shit. You can't really talk about this film without talking about some of the discourse that it's created, which just goes to show how this movie did get people invested. I think the biggest question I'm seeing tossed around is whether or not Bear actually had a shot if he had just asked out Nikki. I think Curry and the actors both gave their take, but my interpretation was it doesn't really matter. Maybe he would have, maybe he wouldn't have, but the point of the movie is that he kind of took the choice from her. I think this is definitely lended to with the inconclusiveness. Apparently, Curry had Indy do different takes, one where she liked him and one where she didn't, and sort of intercut between them. I think it would have made a slightly different statement to say that she did or didn't in one specific way. And I think the ambiguity of that does ultimately make it even more tragic. Another thing I saw that I absolutely agree with is that Bear's choices are only ever really concerned with saving himself and not Nikki, which does reflect exactly on his character. Even in the end, the burden of what are effectively all Bear's choices are not dealt with by Bear. Nikki is the one who is dealing with the aftermath of it. She won't get to live the rest of her life, become a writer, and Curry himself confirmed that it's said in his next movie she does get charged with a triple homicide, not to mention the lasting trauma of what he's caused her. Ian, Sarah, and Nikki are all facing the repercussions of Bear's actions. I think all of the small details add up to what makes the story and the ending so tragic. The side plot of Sarah trying to get into art school only to be accepted into her dream school after dying was legitimately heartbreaking. And overall, I think it was beyond an amazing film, and I am excited not only to see more from Curry Barker, but also what it inspires, because it has definitely inspired me to get even more into writing and content creation and making short films. And I imagine this will not be the last brilliant indie film from Gen Z that will find massive success, because genuinely what this entirely under 30 crew was able to achieve with $750,000 is incredible in every single way. I think the quality of it speaks to the fact that having a Hollywood status is not what makes you skilled or talented. I think the success of the box office is proof of audiences still wanting to engage with art and go and watch movies, and a big need for change in how the industry is producing movies. I've also seen a very big uproar amongst fellow aspiring filmmakers to get their work out there after this movie, and I do personally understand that, even if I have had a slight ego death because I don't think I could make this script. It is absolutely incredible, and I am so genuinely happy that this is what is representing Gen Z filmmakers. This movie has successfully made its way into my Letterboxd top 4, which I did have to change because apparently it was too pretentious. Whatever. This movie will not be leaving my top 4, not only because it's amazing, but because I genuinely believe it will go down in history for not only the mountain it dropped on box office records, but for what it is going to inspire as well. People are still willing to go to the movies. You just need a good story. Thank you for watching if you made it to the end. Depending on how this video goes, I may start uploading on here more often, as I do just find it a lot of fun to get to talk about movies and share insight that I haven't heard people mention yet. I might try to re-upload the video that YouTube had copyright striked, or give a review on the finale of The Boys. I mean, that just came out, right? Nearly a few weeks ago? God damn it.